I call into order this meeting of the Silver City Town Council. Would you please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. For your information, Councilor Bettison will not be here tonight. She's taking care of museum business and doesn't have access to a phone to call us. The next item on the agenda requiring action is public input, and we have 3 people who signed up. And I would like to just remind you that by city ordinance, you have 5 minutes to make your presentation, and I'll give you a heads up if it looks like you're running over that. First on the list is Patricia Cano.
Press the button. Yeah. Mayor Ladner, members of the council, I'm Patricia Cano. I'm a member of the Silver City Museum Society Board, but my comments to you will not be made as a board member, but as a concerned citizen. As you know, on the 4th of July, we had a very successful event, the annual ice cream social. As setup was taking place, I noticed that the bricks that are around the 2 trees that remain in the courtyard are either loose or they are uneven. So it makes it very dangerous for anyone who is trying to take advantage of the seating that goes around those trees. And we are planning to use that courtyard in many other events in order to bring more of the local people into the museum. And I would hope that Mr. Brown and Mr. Marshall would perhaps include this as part of their downtown action plan to make some repairs on those trees so that it's not dangerous. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next on the list is Louise Hummingbird.
Honorable Mayor, Town Council, I'm here tonight to ask...
Could you push that up?
White button. Honorable Mayor, Town Council, I'm here tonight to ask you to take steps to remove fluoride from the city water. I understand that it's naturally occurring, but that doesn't make it any less harmful. And I understand that some of the wells even meet EPA standards. However, historically, EPA standards have often been set too high, and we end up suffering the results. If the EPA accepted standard is I think it's picocuries per milliliter, however they measure it, and teeth modeling is occurring at 2, then what does that tell you about the EPA standards? No level of fluoride is acceptable in our drinking water. We're paying the town to deliver good, healthy, clean water to us, and other towns have taken steps. Columbus, New Mexico, Lordsburg, Tubac, Arizona. They're filtering the water for the residents before it gets to them. It's awfully expensive for residents to take their own measures at home. A lot of people can't afford reverse osmosis filters at their kitchen sink. Reverse osmosis filters are the only type of filters that will remove fluoride. And then we also have the added problem of bathing. The skin is the largest organ on the body, and when we're showering and bathing, we're taking in huge amounts of fluoride through our skin, and it's a known neurotoxin. It's been known to lower children's, especially IQs, even at low levels. It would be so nice to live in America and not have to haul water. Like every time I leave the house, I have to think about whether or not, do I have a water bottle with me, and stop to pick up water that's safe to drink when I have water coming in through the pipes of my house. And it's not possible to have one filter take care of all the contaminants in your house, because one will do chlorine, one type will do fluoride, but there's not one type that will do both, along with the heavy metals. And like I say, the other towns around us are taking steps. And if you like, there's an engineering proposal on the Wardsburg situation, and I could email that to you all, and you can see what they've been doing. And perhaps it'd be a good idea to talk to the mayors of those towns. And also there's a combined, fluoride doesn't sit by itself in our environment. There are other toxins, and there's a combined effect. So to say, oh, it's safe to have this at one level, it's not really valid, because none of these toxins are existing in a vacuum. Let's see. I've noticed since I've been coming down to Silver City and finally decided to move here, that I have encountered more people with health challenges here than anywhere else I've lived. And the main illness I see is cancer, and I see a high death rate of cancer here. And I think fluoride could be one factor. And I think in the United States of America, we all should have access to clean water and not have to haul it. We don't live in Africa, but when we have to go get our water from a machine, and that only takes care of our drinking water, and our bathing water is still toxic, it feels to me like I'm living in a third world country, and that shouldn't be in this country. So I hope that you'll really look into this, and it's way more important to deliver healthy water than to meter it in fancy ways. Water is the essence of life, and some people like myself have done enough research to know how to avoid drinking it when we can, but how do you avoid bathing in it? And I'm concerned about our citizens that don't have the inclination or time to do that kind of research and learn how to protect themselves. So really, it's about protecting the health of all our citizens. And I recently spoke with a woman who complained to me that her son is suffering from fluoridosis, which is modeling of the teeth. It also affects your bones. And she wanted to be here to speak, but I don't think she could make it tonight. So yeah, I just wanted to bring this issue to light. And there's a fellow that wants to speak after me, and he knows a lot about the fluoride issue. He's done a lot of research, and he can give you some really good hard data. So I hope something will come of this, and I look forward to someday being able to not haul water. It's hard on folks as they get older and they're sick, and I look forward to taking a nice healthy bath in my house. So thank you all for listening, and I hope that something will come of me being here tonight.
Thank you.
I felt like I had to say something.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Russell Dobson.
Hey, Dr. Ladner, good to see you again. Do you remember me? Dr. Ladner probably remembers me because I was one of his chemistry students at Western New Mexico University. I have a little farm on the river in Gila, and I went back to college in '96, earned a degree in biology, went to graduate school down at New Mexico State, got to study toxicology and endocrinology with some old professors there who were really excellent. And one of them, Dr. Mueller, gave me, I was trying to find out what is causing the epidemic of hypothyroidism. Because I had a son. I don't have a son anymore, because he killed himself 2 years ago. But my son had ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, because his mother suffered from undiagnosed hypothyroidism. Fluoride in the drinking water causes hypothyroidism. Fluoride is an ion which outcompetes iodine for binding with the tyrosine amino acid that makes thyroid hormone. Thyroid hormone controls the growth and development of a baby's brain in the womb. And when a woman is drinking water that has fluoride in it, her baby's not going to grow right. The prefrontal lobes of the brain don't form right. And most of us have seen ADHD. That's attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. It's epidemic now. 10% of the kids in our schools are being treated for it. And my son, he made it to 27 years old, but he couldn't take it anymore. He wasn't right, and he knew it, and he hung himself. He's dead now. And so, in graduate school, all the time, I knew he wasn't right, and I went to all the doctors. I talked to Arzaga, I talked to all kinds of doctors. They didn't know what caused it. In graduate school, I got to study with these two old professors, one who had the animal science department, he had endocrinology and that. And when he explained to me how thyroid hormone works to grow animals and humans physically in the brain, I got it. And I realized, oh, my ex-wife has all the symptoms of hypothyroidism. How come the doctors never got it? How come we didn't know? So then I talked with my other professor in toxicology, who was Dr. Mueller, an old professor, been there forever, in the biochemistry department at NMSU, and he gave me the toxicological profile of fluorides put out by the U.S. Public Health Service. All the studies to that date in 2000 about fluoride. And in that, I read it, I studied it, and in there it stated the amount of fluoride that is known to cause hypothyroidism was 0.8 milligrams a day. The Silver City water has 1 milligram per liter of fluoride. In other words, drinking 1 liter, and everybody drinks a liter of water a day or more, is having an adverse effect on thyroid function. That's a big deal. I'm sure many of you know people who have thyroid problems in this community. It's epidemic. So I went on to study it. And I spent the last 16 years, I've read everything, all the reports that have come out from all the different government agencies. The National Research Council in 2006 has a whole big book on fluoride, all the different studies from around the world. It's a toxin first class. It's used as a poison for all kinds of things. And biochemistry is used to denature enzymes. Fluoride reacts with everything that we're made of. It causes cancer. The head of the National Cancer Institute testified in Congress, the U.S. Congress, that of all the chemicals they've ever tested for carcinogenicity, fluoride will cause cancer faster and surer than any other toxic chemical they know of. Now that's in our water supply here because it naturally occurs in the volcanic geology that is in this whole area. And it's in places worse than it is right here in Silver City. And I've looked into it, Silver City, and there's 3 wells that have fairly low levels of fluoride, and there's 1 well that has real high levels of fluoride. It's called the Gammy Hayes well. And we mix all this water together and come up with 1 milligram per liter of fluoride and call it good to go, and it's not safe. The maximum contaminant level should be about 0.4 milligrams per liter, and we're using 1 milligram per liter water. And that's causing adverse effects for everybody.
Excuse me, Russell.
Yeah.
Another minute, okay?
Okay. So Louise Hummingbird asked me to come and speak. And I brought some papers that I have written on this issue. about some of the new studies that have been done in the United States and Great Britain on the effect of fluoride causing hypothyroidism and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. It's real. The studies have pointed out. The scientists at the EPA have called for eliminating fluoride from all water supplies, and they demanded all EPA offices be supplied fluoride-free water. The scientists union at the EPA did that. So it wouldn't be too hard to get our water to an acceptable level of fluoride. We just have to shut down the Galley Hayes well and maybe put in another one. But it's a big deal, and I wanted to make you aware of it and bring you some information on it because it is a big deal and it affects us all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is council comments.
Who else wants that?
Councilor Ray?
Thank you, Mayor. Just two. What I want to talk to the people about right now is that, I guess you all know that I'm going to be for allowing, if the council goes through it, allowing four-wheelers on public street roads here in Silver. I've been doing some studying. I've had some couple of meetings, public meetings. That could have been better, that could have been worse. One thing that I'm going to say is that I will try and see how far I can go with it. Is it an opportunity for economic development? Could be. Is it dangerous? Yes, they are dangerous. Anything is dangerous. I'm going to make some comments on what I will propose to do if at all possible should pass. One thing is that nobody under 18 would be allowed to drive them. You don't get a driver's license when you're 18 years old. Why should you get one for a four-wheeler? The state of New Mexico, as we all know, is allowing it. The county does not have a ordinance on it. If a county so desires to do it, they can do one. It's a lot of gray area in allowing four-wheelers on public roads. In the county, it's legal or not legal, it depends on how you interpret it, to go on the right-hand side on the shoulder. Another thing is that we would not use Hudson Street. We don't need to be on Hudson Street. We can always go across. We can always go from one side to another side. We're not using Hudson. Another thing is, not on downtown. We don't need to be downtown. I've talked to some elderly people, and some elderly people are for it. Believe it or not, they are for it. You have to have insurance, which we will have. If so does it desire to have street legal tires, we can do that also. There's been a couple of shops here that I've talked to, and they are willing to do all the work that's necessary for it to be done. You have to have it registered. Even out there in the forest, you have to have it registered. What else? I would like to try it to see if we could do it for a year's time. If we can do it for a year's time, then we will know if it's going to work or not going to work. If it doesn't work, we can always come back and change the language and say, no, it didn't work. Hopefully that I can get with Mr. Scriven and use some sort of language when I do make a NOI or propose it to the town council. I am always open for suggestions. I'm always open to see if somebody is for it or against it. We're going to have people that are going to be for it, we're going to have people that are against it. Another thing is that I hope that we give it a shot. It would be something unique. I think it's a good thing that it would be done because it would create a quality of life. Maybe not a quality of life for some people, but for some people it would be. We have bicycle people, we have hikers, we have walkers. Why not? Why not try it? People enjoy doing different things, and Silver City is a very, very popular area throughout the state. And with that, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Ray. Councilor Kano.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have one thing. Jamie Embick, who is the Community Development Department Director, has set up a meeting for August 11th, that's a Thursday, at 6 p.m. at the Silver City Rec Center for District 4 residents to come and discuss the town's comprehensive plan. So I'm hoping that there will be several people who will be interested in that and will join us. I know she's going to be doing this in every district, so I'm just letting you know when the one for District 4 is. I'm sure the others will, once there's our schedule, will also be announcing. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Amon Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, in District 2, it will be August 17th at Western New Mexico University's Memorial Building, 3rd floor. And we ought to really market this. We ought to have a wide swath of people from our community to talk about a comprehensive plan. I have two other small announcements. One is that the town manager, thank you, Mr. Brown, has given me permission to act as a coordinator to do a pilot study on art in the crosswalk, on 2 crosswalks downtown, and I will be working with some artists, getting him a proposal, so look forward to hopefully traffic calming art in our streets at some time in the future. And I just want to do a shout out and thanks to the Public Works street crew who've been working so hard in my district. They've done some work on Alabama. There were potholes that would swallow up to my mid-calf on Alabama. They're gone. It's smooth. And they also did a fabulous job on a side street, Bartlett, where there was some real erosion and some real drainage problems. They also worked on Hester and on Lower Luck. So I just wanted to thank them publicly for the good work.
Thank you. Any other comments from the council? Councilor Kano.
Thank you, Mayor. I actually did forget something. Next week, we're going to have 30 of our residents headed to Roswell for the State Senior Olympics Games, and I just wanted to wish them luck publicly. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councilor Ray?
Thank you, Mayor. I forgot to mention that I have, in the roundabout, we talked to Chief Reynolds about the 4-wheelers. And to be honest with you, I don't think he's for it. Simply because I think it would cause a overburden on the police department. Again, the sheriff's department, the county does not have an ordinance on it. So I just want to let you people know that in the roundabout way, I did talk to Chief Reynolds about it, and I don't think he is for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Ray. Any other comments? Okay. Moving right along. The next item on the agenda is changes to the agenda. Does the council want to make any changes to the agenda? No, sir. Okay, no changes. Next item is the approval of minutes of the June 28, 2016 regular meeting. Do I hear a motion? Councilor Amon Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to approve the minutes of the regular council meeting of the town of Silver City of June 28th, 2016.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the minutes. Is there a second? Councilor Kano.
Mr. Mayor, I second that motion as stated.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is reports. Agenda 8A is the Silver City Main Street Projects Quarterly Report, which will be given by Lucy Whitmarsh, the Executive Director.
Good evening, councilors, mayor, city staff, and also the public. Our Main Street quarterly report is for the previous quarter, which was April, May, and June. And the quarterly report that we do for Main Street communities, we send it to the New Mexico Main Street, and then they compile statistics for the state that reflect what the overall Main Street communities contribute to economic development in our state. So for our quarterly report for our downtown, we had 2 new businesses added to the district with 6 full-time equivalent employees. We did have 2 businesses close, and that was a loss of 6 employment positions. So the only gain that we had in the last quarter was that we did have 1 business expansion, and that added 3 new employees. We did have private building projects totaling $286,200, 1 building that sold for $75,000, and then we also did have, in conjunction with Aldo Leopold and the Youth Conservation Corps, they worked on a project in the Big Ditch Park where they put in additional trails, and that project was funded at close to $30,000. And most of that was to employment for the students that worked on the project, and they also learned valuable trail building skills while they were working on that, and we've had really favorable comments on that work. It was really special. We also worked on some events. We had Big Ditch Day in conjunction with the Continental Divide Trail Coalition. We also had a downtown cleanup day. We participated in the Give Bradley fundraising project, and we also conducted a tour of the El Sol Theater as part of the Heritage Preservation Month program, which was the month of May. With all of that, we accumulated 225 hours of volunteer service. And I also wanted to add that with the assistance of the New Mexico Main Street program, we are working on developing a signage plan for the downtown that would include signage to bring people to downtown, and then internal signage within downtown that would identify it as a district. So that's in the works, and we should have that done soon. We also completed a comprehensive marketing plan for downtown as a destination, and we're in the process of implementing that. I did include a copy of it in your package. And as part of it, we're working on trying to bring conferences to downtown, and so Silver City Main Street did work with New Mexico Main Street to bring the Historic Theory Institute to downtown in this past April. And I also would just like to mention some of the things that we have coming up that are also part of promoting our downtown as a destination for people who live here and also for people who are visiting. And the first one that we have coming up is something that we've been doing for the past 5 years. It's in conjunction with the university, and on August 13th, we'll be having a downtown welcome for students from Western New Mexico University to come downtown, and that's their move-in day, and so that event usually also includes parents who are with the students that are moving in, and it's a community event to introduce the students to downtown, but we're also approaching the downtown businesses and asking them if they'd like to contribute to a welcome package with coupons or information about their business so that the students can become aware of what we have to offer in the downtown to the university students, because I think they're a very valuable asset to our economic development. Then, following that, on September 3rd, which is on Labor Day weekend, and it's the Saturday of Labor Day weekend, we're having the annual Taste of Downtown, and that's an opportunity for the restaurants.
Listen, excuse me, is that here in your packet?
No, this is what we have coming up. I don't have the information about, I have the information about what we did in the last quarter in the packet, but I did want to just talk to you about some of the things that we do have coming up in the future.
Okay, just next time, would you include that as public input?
Okay.
Because we're on the report now.
Okay, so, thank you. Are there any questions?
Councilor Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, in your report, Lucy, you talk about having worked on this wayfinding signage, which I believe is also in the downtown action plan that we're going to hear some more about. And you said that we'd be seeing some stuff soon. Does that mean that the design is done, things are ordered, is implementation on the horizon for some of these wayfinding signs?
We've been working with a focus group of interested people, and we have not yet determined the final design proposal that we're going to go with, and so it's still in the process of the plan being developed.
Okay, that wasn't clear. It sounded to me like you were getting ready to start putting signs in. So,
That's what I usually think, but that's not usually true.
all right, thank you. Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? Councilor Kano?
Thank you, Mayor. As part of your plan, you talked a little bit about theaters, and I have a big concern with the Silco, and so I'm going to bring it up now. The Silco is not 100% accessible for physically disabled people. And the reason I say that is because, I go attend a movie there, and yes, I can roll in my wheelchair and watch the movie, but I can't enter the concession stand. I can't take part in going and ordering some popcorn or deciding I want candy in the middle of the movie, because there is, first of all, that space is terribly designed, and secondly, all there is available is a step. So someone in a wheelchair, someone with a walker, someone even with a cane is not going to be able to do that. So at this point, I'm still one of those locals that has to travel to Deming to have a full theater experience, and that really bothers me. So I'm hoping that there's something that can be done to fix that, because right now there's a whole lot of individuals in this community that still can't use that theater.
Well, as our handicapped accessibility had to be completely vetted in the process of the construction, but it took into consideration the fact that it is a historic building and there are only certain modifications that can be made to it. So the accommodation that there is, which may not be being explained very well, is that the front door of the concession is accessible. There isn't any step involved in it, and the only requirement is that we do have one entrance, and we are again working with a pre-existing building that we don't have a lot of control over some of the existing conditions.
Okay, well, I'm actually going to argue with you, because a ramp could be placed there instead of a step in that thing, and it would still be historically sound. I really beg to differ that there has been a step there during the time that there was, I believe it was Mr. Connor that had a confectionery there. It wasn't designed in that way. So to me, the fact that you're not willing to consider putting a ramp really disturbs me. It really does. I know that you say, well, you can open the door. So in the middle of the movie, I have to find an employee, ask them to come outside with me, come around the building, open the door, let me in, and take me back out. Speaking for most disabled people, that's not really something that's going to happen. It's just more of you're not going to go to the movies. So if you want people to go downtown and use the facilities, you need to be a little more considerate of that.
When we did do...
Whether it's a historical building or not, you need to consider the fact that the people that are here now need to have accessibility.
We certainly did look at a ramp for that location, and the reason that we couldn't put a ramp in was because of the elevation would have taken the ramp all the way to the door. and you wouldn't have any access to get off of the ramp, because we did look at that in the initial design, and we weren't able to do that.
I have another question, actually. You mentioned a focus group working on the signage. Have you included anyone who is a native Silver Cityan or anyone who is part of the Hispanic community on that focus group? And if not, can you please include them before you make final decisions?
Certainly, we can do that.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the council? I want to thank you for your report, and I want to congratulate you on your tour with the governor yesterday. I think she was really impressed by the big changes that was made in the theater since she was here last time. And I just have a request on behalf of the town. Is there a possibility that we could get with the architect and look at some way to modify that? I know it's finished, so to speak, but, there's always a way that things can be modified with the proper help, a good architect. Would you please just look at that for us?
Yes, we revisited from our previous, as again, I said that we had gone through quite a few proposals on that particular issue, and there isn't any reason why we can't go back and look at it again.
Okay, yeah, I'm going to ask you to look at it again, and if you would, give us a report on what you find. Because the city played a big role in supporting the renovation of that, and I can't speak for Manager Brown, but there's always a possibility that we might be able to help some more. It's not a promise, it's just thinking out loud to try to get the job done where it would be accessible.
From the vestibule, from the lobby area.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Item 8B is the Silver City Public Library Strategic Plan, and that will be presented by Eileen Sullivan, the Library Director.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, councilors, staff, and public. I'm really happy to be here this evening to be able to present our library strategic plan. It's the culmination of actually a rather lengthy process. Many of you may remember that in 2016, we undertook a comprehensive community survey. Had a great response from the public with that. That information was presented here in the council, and that information was also available to the public on our website at the library. We followed up this past year on that comprehensive survey with two focus groups, one for youth in the community and the other with the Hispanic community. We felt like those were areas that we needed to get additional input from the public and from our community. So we had those two focus groups. We then had an extensive planning process with our library board and with key library staff, and that was facilitated by the nonprofit resource group. Renee Dupre was our consultant through this whole process. So what you have in your packets here is, the result of quite an extensive process. And the reason that we undertook this was really twofold. One is that libraries and their roles are changing really dramatically across the country. And we wanted to make sure that whatever direction that we head in as a library is truly going to meet our community needs. And secondly, we're required by the New Mexico State Library in order to get bond funding to have a strategic plan in place as well. I would like to take a minute just to thank the people who participated, the public who filled out our surveys, the folks who came to the focus groups and, gave their time to discuss various issues with us, with the library. We really appreciate that. Also, our library board members who met many extra times in the spring of this year to really look at some of these issues and come up with this plan, and then also to the library staff. I think there was a really high level of engagement, some great discussions, great ideas that really came through this process. The plan itself, I will not go into a lot of detail right now, but I'd like to highlight just a couple of things. And one is that we have a new mission and a new vision statement. The new mission statement, I think, really articulates better our role currently, but also where we see the library headed in the future. I think libraries have been viewed in the past as a repository for information, where people go for information. We see our role as being much broader than that we are a place that people make connections, and that is connections with other people, connections with ideas, and then also that we're becoming more and more a place where people also create things, and that is creating content. We have a lot of people coming in and learning new technologies, young people coming in and creating with technology in the library as well. So the new mission statement, and just for those, for the public here and those who may see this later, the new mission statement for the Silver City Public Library is to provide access to information and ideas, to foster literacy, lifelong learning, and creativity, to connect people to each other and to the wider world, and to strengthen our communities. The vision is really that the Silver City Public Library is a gateway to the knowledge and information needed to sustain a healthy and thriving community. In the plan, you'll see that we've identified some critical issues and then come up with some broad strategic goals that we will be working on over the next 3 to 5 years. Some of these critical areas are really balancing our digital and print resources, building and diversifying our resources, engaging youth, young adults, working adults, and the underserved, making the best use of our current facility while planning for a future state-of-the-art facility, and strengthening our internal management systems. In terms of the next steps, these broad strategic goals that we have set forth will really determine what we do over the next several years. I'm in the process right now with the library staff of kind of taking the next step here, which is really developing our operational plans for the next year, as well as those longer things that we need to be planning for, that may be 3 to 5 year projects as well. And so we're coming up with very specific objectives at this point, and ways to measure those objectives in terms of what can we do to actually accomplish the goals that we're setting forth. The other thing that we'll be doing is in the fall, once we get through summer reading program and our boards are back from vacations and things, we are going to be doing a public forum as an opportunity to really present, in a sense, a state of the library, if you will, where we are right now, where we see ourselves headed in the future, really talking about these strategic goals, and having the public really understand what has come out of this process, and also how we can continue to benefit from public input and information from our library patrons. And the information will also be available. We'll be putting this up on our library blog as well, so that people have access to the information. We will also have some paper copies available at the library when we really kind of roll that out for the public. So with that, are there any questions?
Thank you. Any questions? Councilor Kondo?
Just have a statement. I just would like to thank you and Dr. Dupree for the work that you've done, reaching out to every nook and cranny of the community. I know you've worked really hard on that in the last few years, and it's appreciated.
Yes, thank you. And it's been a really wonderful process for us, and I think it was really worth the effort.
Any other questions? Councilwoman Smith?
Thank you. I do have a comment, and that is, I was a little deeper in the weeds than
Yes.
the other sister. But it was really an engaging process. And one of the things I just want to acknowledge was how collaborative the whole process was. And that I see as one of the huge strengths of our library, is that the library works across all kinds of boundaries with all kinds of partners. And I do want to point out one thing that you provided as a bit of information, is that there are right now something like 10,200 library cards out there. It doesn't mean that every person in Silver City has a card. It means that there are lots and lots of users of our public library who don't actually live within our town. But, you know, serves the entire population of the county and beyond.
And beyond, yes.
Thank you. Any other questions? I just had one, or two maybe. One, you had mentioned that you wanted to diversify your funding source. What are your ideas there? I'm just curious.
I think we need to be creative with that. We've really developed some very strong partnerships already in the community. Some of these have been around programming, allowing us to work with other organizations to provide programs that we wouldn't have been able to do on our own. I think we can take some of these things to another level. Some of the areas that I think maybe might be the most fruitful right now. We have an emphasis with some of these technology training, STEM, the science, technology, engineering, math type of programs that we're offering. And these are really relevant, I think, to our community, both in terms of economic development and workforce development. I mean, those two things really go hand in hand. And there are sources out there, you know, in terms of economic development, workforce development, whether those are sources of federal funding or other types of programs where we can collaborate with others to begin, I hope, to bring some additional resources into the community to do that kind of thing. And the other, you know, obvious ones are working a little bit more directly with some of the other libraries in our immediate area and region. We have some wonderful relationships already that way, where we've done some collaborative programming. But I think there may be opportunities also for collaborations around actual resources, things like the e-book service that we provide right now is actually through a New Mexico consortium. So there may be other opportunities to bring other resources into the community by working together with some of the other libraries as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mayor, Council, the reason that this wasn't brought for you to approve the town council is because per ordinance, I do approve the internal, policy manuals for each of the departments, just so you know. And second, for Councilor Cano, you know what, just because she was standing up there, I had an idea that, you know, that elevator thing that they have at the library, that might be something that we might be able to look at for the theater. So we can look at that.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, item 8C, will be a report on the Downtown Action Plan by Mr. James Marshall, Assistant Town Manager.
Good evening. Excuse me. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My boss. I think next meeting I'm going to report on the library strategic plan. As the guy who's tasked with reporting on all the plans, it's interesting to know there's more coming before I can even finish. Thanks, just to continue the series, and I think it's very interesting, and I really hope that you all take some time and go over the Downtown Action Plan. And the actual plan's not all that long, but the really, really interesting part is at the back. And when you look at the parking studies that were done, the multiple views of downtown parking that were taken from days a week to weekends, to all sorts of times of day. And it was very enlightening to see, once again, the actual low percentage of use in the downtown parking that's actually available. It may not be able to, you pull up and you can see where you're going, but there is parking available. And I think the study clearly shows that. Additionally, look at the comments on the charrettes that were done and the wide variety, and because it was a downtown action plan, it had a very broad audience and very broad questions, and you actually get some competing answers in the charrette. And I think that's very, very interesting, and we should really pay attention to that, especially as we go into the comprehensive plan. So the Silver City Downtown Action Plan defines the community's vision for the downtown and identifies priority projects and programs to revitalize the downtown area. The action plan examines existing conditions and assets, recommends redevelopment projects and implementation strategies, and identifies funding sources for downtown's future improvements. And as you go through the plan, it's really in a linear format that makes sense. So if there's 12 goals, and I'll go over them very briefly. The promote historic downtown as a destination with good services, amenities for both visitors and residents. Number 2, develop coherent and consistent design guidelines for street furniture, wayfinding, and public signage. Enhance and improve the cleanliness and maintenance of streets and sidewalks. Provide adequate, accessible, convenient, and flexible parking and service access for businesses and residences. Create a friendly environment for pedestrians and bicyclists. Proactively make historic preservation a priority in downtown revitalization. Support and promote the development of civic community facilities, including adaptive reuse of the 3 downtown historic theaters. 8 is attract new businesses to the district and support existing businesses. Develop a campus of civic offices in the vicinity of Goff Park that incorporates existing town assets. Promote and accommodate residential use in the downtown historic area. Encourage and support adaptive reuses for buildings in the downtown historic area that preserve tradition and address contemporary code standards. Accommodate a mix of residential densities in the downtown historic area, including live workspaces, and in upper floor commercial buildings. Identifies funding sources for downtown's future development. The recommendations and strategies are intended to help achieve the following vision and goals developed by the community through an extensive participatory planning process. And I really hope as I read through those 12, things are popping in your head as to what's being done on almost all of those. So the recommendations, there's 7. Foster business development, foster local market development, foster cultural heritage tourism development, improve arts and culture district and downtown design and identity. Recommendations for boundary expansions, listings, and additional survey work. Implement parking plans. Improve wayfinding to the downtown area. Once again, I think on many of those, it's very apparent there's stuff that's happening. Some of it may not be quite as apparent. The key ideas, so we've gone from goals to recommendations, now are a little more specific ideas. And there's 17 of them, and they all come with potential funding sources identified. When you go through the plan, and I didn't list all the funding sources, but I could tell you how many are associated with each project. Pope Street Boulevard, and it lists 5 different sources of potential funding. A feasibility study of Pope College Boulevard, and the partners for that is Town of Silver City Main Street, and DOT, and another 5 potential funding resources are attached to that. The downtown gateways, Town of Silver City Main Street, New Mexico DOT, and once again 5. And as we all know, we've got a beautiful gateway on Broadway, and we have not addressed the other ends of the street on either on Broadway as well as the north end of Bullard and south end of Pope. The wayfinding and signage system, as Lucy just referenced, they're working on that as we speak, and there's potential for 5 different funding sources there. The public art focal points. I think that was referenced a little earlier as well. And there are potential 3 funding sources identified in the plan. The green spine, which basically turned into the greenways plan, and there's 3 sources listed in the plan for funding on that. The Main Street Big Ditch Confluence site, which is basically the parking lot behind the fire department, and there's been some work done on that as well with the addition of pedestrian bridges and additional access into that area. The connect Bullard and the Big Ditch, with 3 different funding sources identified for that. And since the plan was done, the big connection is the bridge, the big bridge connecting the visitor center. The Broadway parking improvements, and there is 1 source, paint. The Bullard Spring intersection improvements, and there's reference to the historic use of that intersection as kind of a self-imposed roundabout with stop signs in the middle of it. So there's discussion of whether that should be redesigned to fit the actual function. Depot Plaza San Vicente Heritage District, and there's 7 sources of funding attached to that one. The Hudson Broadway Gateway, ta-da. The Town Civic Campus, and as you know, that was part of the reason that we purchased the what's currently the Office of Sustainability and the Municipal Fueling Depot. The Market Street redirection basically means turn markets one way the other way, so we direct traffic into downtown and not make them go through the zigs and zags. And I know there's already been some discussion and some study done on that, and that's the reason it hasn't been done. The downtown restrooms, and we now have the restrooms open in the hub and working with Main Street to develop additional public restrooms in the downtown plaza. And the theater district, as we've discussed already, and continue facade improvement program, and there's 4 sources identified with that one. So there's a lot of things that are in this plan that are actually both accomplished and ongoing, where some of them are baby steps, we're just having little incremental success here and there, and some of it ties into other plans in the community. And I think it's really important that I can pick out some stuff in the plan that is just probably never ever going to happen, and we have to really be careful doing that and misguiding the public that maybe we do have an intention. So with that, I will stand for questions.
Councilman Smith?
Things that are never, ever going to happen?
Yes. Some of them are actually structurally impossible, because unless we lost a few blocks.
So from that, what I'm hearing you say is that as we really work through all of the plans that are out there and create the comprehensive plan, that we have to ask ourselves, is this actually ever possibly doable before we put something in as a strategic goal?
Absolutely. Is it doable, and is it truly a desire to go there?
Okay.
I mean, there's a lot of things that sound good, and they might feel good, and may not be the strategy that we want to take to address that concern.
Okay.
Any other questions? I just had one sort of a question or a comment. On Saturdays, especially with the farmers market, that plaza area is just packed with people. And I'm just wondering, what do you see as the next step that we can take to get a restroom in that area, public restroom?
So we're currently, Lucy and I have been meeting with Engineers Inc., and I believe Lucy's contacting another consultant as well, and developing that as a Main Street Plaza. One of the phase one would be the installation of public restrooms, as well as the street needs to be brought up to standard and include the ADA components that are drastically missing on that street. Not to mention, some of the sidewalks are in pretty bad shape there, but if you chose to stay in the roadway, it would be very difficult. So part of that plan is to improve the road accessing the plaza, build the bathroom, redo what's currently basically a railroad tie retaining wall, and redo that with some sort of more permanent and structurally sound material, and then put on a semi-permeable surface so that it's firm but doesn't cause a bunch of runoff issues, and just basically improve the accessibility, improve lighting, and including in the lighting plan is electrical outlets and stuff, so that if you're having a festival there and you need electricity for something, it'll be available.
Just another comment. These plans that we have, and maybe the council members could help me with this, I'm just not familiar with the process, but do we have a way to revise those plans to make them more like living documents that are reasonable? I mean, if you have things that absolutely physically are impossible to do, why don't we take them out the plan?
I absolutely agree, and you'll notice there was some Mayor Marshall that signed that one that has some of that stuff in there. We swear at him a lot in my office now. Yes, the plans can be amended, and there's many of them that probably should be. Sometimes if we integrate a lot of these plans into the comprehensive plan, we won't have to worry about having, I mean, we have a room that's full of plans, and my career is pretty new with the city, and I will not finish this job before I retire at the rate we're going for plans. So yes, we can amend the plans, and we just have to figure out if we amend it, is it worth the time to amend it, or should the plan actually be integrated into a different, more comprehensive plan, and then maybe rescind the plans.
That's a good point, yeah. Any other comments or questions? Thank you, Mr. Marshall.
Thank you.
Mr. Brown, do you have anything else?
Just a couple small things. As some of you might know, the work on Little Walnut should be done tomorrow. The repaving, they did about half of it in the last day or so. And then they're well underway on the Vistas de Plata subdivision road, and that will connect 10th Street to Kelly, fix a lot of drainage issues, and put a curb gutter sidewalk street up there for future growth in that neighborhood. So we're looking forward to that. So just yeah, actually, the mayor and I talked about it. It's a pretty thick layer that they're putting on there because, some of that subgrade has moved, and that's why you got all those bumps. So hopefully if it moves any more, because of the thickness, you're not going to see very much of a movement in there. So you won't have the bumps that we've got there anymore.
Yeah, this morning on my way out to Gomez Peak, I got to ride on one of those lanes, and it was great. It was so smooth, I couldn't believe it. The next item on the agenda that will require any action is under new business, item A, the approval/disapproval of changing the regular council meeting scheduled for Tuesday, July 26, 2016, to Monday, July 25, 2016. Does the council have any questions or comments?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes, why are we proposing to do this?
Councilor Ray, would you care to respond to that?
Yes, I will. I won't be here for the Tuesday night meeting. I will be out of town, so I had asked Ann to see if we could change it, and it was either a Friday or a Monday, and they decided on Monday, so that's why I am requesting it. Thank you.
Thank you. So the potential to change the meeting is really because we want to have all of the councilors present for any kind of decisions.
That was another reason also.
Mayor, Council, it actually is the meeting to adopt the final budget. So that's
Very important.
preferable that everybody is here. And it's going to be a pretty long meeting because there's going to be quite a bit on the agenda. So
We should bring our
I might have
lunches.
to bring you lunch.
A long meeting, huh?
I remember that it's going to be on the agenda. So.
Okay, do I hear a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve of changing the regular council meeting schedule for Tuesday, July 26, 2016 to Monday, July 25th, 2016 at 9 a.m. at the Grand County Administration Center.
Okay, we have a motion, a second.
Mr. Mayor, I will second that motion.
Councilor Kano, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor of changing the regular council meeting schedule for Tuesday, July 26, 2016 to Monday, July 25th, 2016, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. Okay, motion carries.
Counselor, the attorney, Scavron, has been complaining for the last 10 minutes that we're changing it to the morning. He doesn't get up till noon, so...
But I'll show up at noon, don't you worry.
Now to get the audience sacrifices, Mr. Stanley.
You can blame me because I was going to, couldn't be at the Friday night meeting, so you ended up with Monday morning instead. Sorry.
Duly noted. This concludes the business of the Silver City Town Council. Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Smith?
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I move to adjourn.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Meeting adjourned.